Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to continue talking about discovery or disclosure and processing the details of the affair. You know, healing from the trauma of infidelity is this multi-step process. And after the difficult step of disclosure comes yet another challenging process, and that is handling the details. How you address the details of the affair or addiction oftentimes determines how the recovery process will go. But how do you share the details without causing your spouse further damage or further pain? Couples need to be able to develop a common, cohesive understanding of their story, of their history. And with that common history in place, the infidelity becomes part of the story of us. This is what allows the loss that's created by infidelity to be transformed into something new. It's what allows us to transition from the pain of that betrayal into a new life full of possibilities. And how couples handle the process of discovery or disclosure determines how quickly they can develop that common understanding. Second only to stopping the infidelity behaviors, how couples handle discovery may be the most critical factor in healing and surviving infidelity itself. Some of you might have already received too much information, and for that I am really sorry. But I promise that in the long run, with the right help, those memories will fade. And as you go forward, it's important not to inflict even more damage. A primary barrier to couples surviving infidelity is not knowing what happened. As counterintuitively as it may seem, recovery is facilitated by the wayward partner answering all the betrayed partner's questions. The betrayed spouse, however, needs to be the one to determine the details that they need to know. You've heard me talk about the late Peggy Vaughn many times, and she was this research pioneer in both infidelity and in compulsive behaviors. She conducted numerous surveys to determine where therapists were excelling and where they were falling short when treating infidelity. In a survey from her book, The Monogamy Myth, a personal handbook for recovering from affairs, she found that 72% of betrayed spouses said they recovered from the sexual activity in the affair long before they recovered from the deception. It's the deception during and after the affair that creates the biggest challenge, the biggest roadblocks for reconciliation. Deception creates a sense of betrayal and destroys not only the trust towards their spouse, but also their trust in themselves. They no longer feel they can trust reality or their intuition. They're not even sure they can trust their gut about what they're seeing, about what's happened, and whether it's real. And by providing answers to the betrayed spouse's questions, the wayward spouse allows them to find footing in their new but albeit painful reality. While it's possible for couples to continue living together after an affair, they may never be able to reestablish a deep, trusting, and intimate relationship without a full disclosure or discovery. Before the betrayed spouse can trust their mate, they need to be entrusted with the details of affair or acting out behaviors of the wayward partner. Without this full disclosure, they'll often feel insignificant and, quite frankly, foolish. Or they hear one message loud and clear, and that is, I don't deserve the truth. Or they feel more hurt, more disrespected, and unimportant. And they can almost never move forward as a couple without that discovery, without that disclosure. This discovery process might seem like a double-edged sword for the wayward spouse as well. If you don't tell, your mate is miserable. If you do tell, your mate is still miserable. And in my experience, disclosure is one of the most critical tasks for moving forward, either as a couple or as an individual. And without knowing what happened, the betrayed spouse most likely will never be able to fully trust their partner again. In the absence of the truth, the betrayed partner might also encounter recovery roadblocks. Things like obsessively trying to connect the dots in their own head in an attempt to make sense of things, or writing their own version of what happened, which will likely be far worse than reality. And also feeling that their relationship's history has been destroyed, and ultimately believing that the good times will always be tainted by the betrayal. The act of answering questions might seem pointless when it ends in anger and in tears, but the fact is, withholding information from your partner is not only controlling, it's completely self-centered. And until you're able to get your mind around what happened, a part of you might continue searching for information that will help you understand your new reality. These answers play a vital role in healing after an affair. And until you have these answers, you will have great difficulty moving forward, moving on. To begin, you need to know the basic details of what happened. There are two important considerations for the betrayed spouse when asking questions. First, avoid comparison questions. Asking comparison questions such as how they acted out sexually with the affair partner or about physical attributes of the affair partner will just make you feel worse. Comparison questions don't provide relevant information, but they can create painful, intrusive thoughts. Please, for your sake, I fight the urge to ask these questions. And second, limit the why questions. As difficult as it might be to believe, there is a strong likelihood that your spouse really doesn't understand why the betrayal happened, at least not yet. And most likely, they weren't thinking about anything other than the fact that they weren't going to get caught. So while you want to understand why it happened to prevent it from happening again, please refrain and don't get stuck on why just yet. Those answers will come later. The disclosure or discovery process is tough and even scary, but without going through this process, healing will be extremely difficult. So where do you begin? Beyond having an open mind, here are 5 recommendations I have for the wayward spouse as they approach disclosure. First, do tell the whole truth. More damage is done by the deception than the sexual acts themselves. So answer your spouse's questions. It's the only way to help them find what's real. Infidelity is the keeping of secrets, and continued deception blocks any hope of healing. And second, don't control your spouse's response. Don't shut your partner down when they get angry or emotional. This is most likely the most painful thing they'll ever experience. So emotional reactions are normal. Be present and listen when they share their feelings. Third, don't get defensive. Defensiveness manipulates and controls how your partner sees you. So rather than being concerned about how you're being seen, try to understand their perspective. And in the long run, all the defensiveness does is create more distance between you and your spouse. And don't minimize what you've done. Be rigorously honest, sharing the parts of you that you don't want to share. If you minimize what happened, your mate won't believe you. If you tell it honestly, at least, your mate will know that you have good intentions. And don't decide what information they need to know. Let your spouse decide how much information they need. Ask them the level of detail that they'd like and answer their questions. Don't try to control your spouse by controlling the flow of information. And I want to say again that sharing and processing the details of an affair is extremely difficult for both partners. That's why I highly recommend that couples will sign up for the free 7-day First Steps Boot Camp for Surviving Infidelity. Not only can this program help you during the early stages of discovery, but it also offers some guidance surrounding anger management and how to process this debilitating pain. I also strongly recommend couples continue their healing with our life-changing EMS weekend. It is my favorite thing that we do. Every month, it's facilitated by myself and other seasoned therapists who've experienced infidelity firsthand. EMS is a safe environment, and it helps you to begin tackling the barriers to healing of transforming your pain and putting the pieces of your life back together after betrayal. And I'll just tell you that spaces fill up quickly, so I encourage you to register for this restorative program sooner rather than later. Thousands of couples have been through it, and it has helped them. So as always, it is good to be with you. Thanks for your time and for listening, for your feedback and for your comments. Know that we at A Fair Recovery care about you and are here to support both of you any way we can. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next week.